couple of our senators have other functions to attend and some other meetings. Just quickly, as an overview, we're going to take up all these bills. I believe they're all LBR. We may have one or two minor exceptions, but everything's at legislative budget recommendation. That's the numbers that were established by the JLBC back before we got started in session. I will entertain from any senator that wants to make this motion. I will be glad to entertain your motion to take up your particular bills in block, since there shouldn't be much in here that's that stands out. But of course, if you do want to explain something, feel free to pull that one aside and explain it separately. I think what I'd like to do and by the way, I'm going to have a worksheet tomorrow that I'll go over on the floor. I don't see any need to go over the worksheet today in here, but I'll go over the worksheet for the entire body tomorrow on the floor. We'll look at the expected revenue, and we'll look at each agency's budget as we start. And as you all well know, everybody in here has been around for a while, so you know that this is a long way from the finish line. There's a lot of work to be done. Obviously, we'll get a budget recommendation shortly before the end of session, and that'll be what we'll base our final budget on. Let's go to the back of your packet. There are two bills. I'll take up one first, and then we'll get the other one at the end of the meeting. The first one you'll see, it's actually the second one on the very back. It's the deficit appropriation, and this is the first stab. This is Senate Bill 3054. This is our first stab at our deficit. I wish I could say this will be the final attempt to the final effort to get the numbers right. And let me explain to you what those are. You'll see that the first section 1 is $156,842 for the AG, and this is represented on page 2, 5 different items. One of those is $6,224 that the state has to pay for a Superfund site cleanup down in Gulfport. This is a continuing, if you paid attention, you'll know that this has been on here many years before, and it's part of a continuing settlement agreement that we have. The next one's new. It's a lawsuit that was filed as it relates to claims by a student at the Mississippi School for the Deaf and the Blind, and the amount owed is $25,000. The next two you'll see are part of the statutory obligations that we have for persons that were wrongfully incarcerated. These two have been going on for years, and they've got several more years to go. They're $50,000 apiece. And the final one is a lawsuit that was filed in Hinds County. That lawsuit is the second year of, and so the final year should be on this one. That's $25,617 or $618. Then you'll see there are funds for Olivia Y. These are all part of our obligations and lawsuits that we have ongoing. You'll see starting on the top of page 3, the Olivia Y settlement, and that's a continuing obligation that the state has. The next two are related to corrections lawsuits. And these are paying, by the way, attorney's fees, costs, expenses, et cetera, with lawsuits. The fourth one is the IRS claim, and this is one that's a continuing saga too. We should be getting near the end on this. Several years back, when Affordable Care Act was implemented, some of our state agencies didn't offer the health insurance to employees, and there were penalties for several of our agencies, but we got $75,000 there. And finally is a continuing lawsuit concerning a claim against the Central District, Supreme Court District, and there's Voting Rights Act claims as well as 8th and 14th Amendment claims there, and that's $150,000. The final three, or not the final three, excuse me, sections 3 is the Department of Corrections lawsuit. This is the amount last year we put in for the contract they have for health insurance for inmates, and it was under $4,314,000. So that's a deficit request from DOC. The next one, section 4, is related to the continuing lawsuit concerning the City of Jackson's water litigation, and that's our Department of Health is involved in that lawsuit, and those are continuing costs. Unless they work out a settlement, that's likely to continue a bit longer. And then the final 3, sections 5, 6, and 7, are CPS deficits, and I don't this is our best stab at numbers for CPS. You'll see the first one's for out-of-state therapeutic placements that have been ordered by the courts. The second one is the increased number of children they have in cases. They had a huge rise in cases for CPS this year. That number is 3.39 million. And then the final one is the temporary placement expenditures, as we've discussed last year, as part of the funds that we put in for Canopy. We're having to spend a lot of money until we can get some of these things up and running. We're having to spend a lot of money. And that third one is money that we've got to spend this year for placements that are made into hotels with sitters and things of that nature. And that's 3.988 million. That's an explanation of the deficit, and I will yield if there are questions. Any questions? Senator Delano, you're recognized.
Mr. Chairman, I'll go back to section 4 for 1 second. And just for my knowledge, this $4 million, is this actual hard cost expenses for services that are provided, or is this legal services for ongoing suits?
Legal services expenses. There are tons and tons of documents. I asked that question last year. I think we talked about it. I know it's hard to remember this year of year, but the amount of information and the cases and claims that are being made against the city and the state for the water, as you might imagine, there are a number of people that are involved in that lawsuit.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, actually, Corbin's pointing at 2,183 claims. Senator Norwood.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, regarding the deficit for DOC, that I believe said that was for medical expenses. Did they provide any type of justification, any plan that was, because look, every year we seem to just be, I mean, they're just going over it. Have they presented any type of plan in their justification for this deficit that would provide hopefully some hope or some relief?
Well, last year, before the conclusion of the session, when we set the number, last year, DOC bid out for their medical services contract, and it came in above what the cost it was. So this is just to pay for that additional cost that was contracted with DOC based on the RFPs that they sent out. It was RFPs they sent out.
So going forward, it shouldn't be, well, I guess I know you can't put your thumb on it, but the expectation would be it shouldn't be as high as it has.
I hope not. This is, I think, a 3-year contract, if I remember correctly, Senator Norwood. And I hope not, but, you know, there shouldn't be, but I'm not going to sit here and say, you know, never say never on this.
Are they putting measures in place, more or less, I guess, to try to curtail some of the, I mean, I guess the preventive or unnecessary, that's probably not a good word, unnecessary, but some of the preventive measures that would probably be more cost effective?
Tell you what, I'll check on that with them and see if I can do that and get back with you. I'll be happy to get that information to you, and I'll be happy. I'll try to get it today or tonight so I can have it ready for tomorrow if there's a discussion on the floor about that.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Norwood. Other questions? Motion from Senator Polk is title sufficient, do pass. All in favor say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Now let's move back up to the top and go to subcommittee number 2, and that's going to be Senator Parks. You are recognized to explain those bills. Get your mic on. Can you get your mic on, Senator Parks?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to take up the Senate bills 3002, 3003, 3004, 3005, 3006, 3007, 3008, 3009, 3010 in block.
Senator's motion is to take those up in block. Does anyone wish to pull those matters, or does anybody object to taking those up in block? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. You're recognized, Senator Parks.
Mr. Chairman, we'll go to 3002.
Can you pull the mic a little closer? I'm having a hard time hearing you here.
Sure.
Thank you.
We'll go to Senate Bill 3002. This is the general support bill. 375,962,600 is our general fund with a special fund of 1,018,268,171.
Actually, right below that, Senator Parks, your total action, it looked like 1.469
Right,
billion.
1.469,541,867. I'm going to Senate Bill 3003, subsidiary program, 39,622,232. Special fund, 45,623,276, totaling 86,076,250. And then we move on down to the ag programs under 3004. That's 7,885,389. Zero special funds, giving a total of 8,220,389. Moving on down to MSU. Again, this is part of the ag program. Looking at general fund, that's 24,535,872. Special funds, 9,142,045, giving a total of 35,027,917. We move down to the cooperative extension again, still part of the ag program, 33,358,966. Special fund, 13,276,083, totaling 47,785,049. Senate Bill 007, moving to the forest and wildlife, that's 6,260,147, with a special fund of 919,899, giving you a total of 7,630,046. Moving to veterinarian, 3008, Bill 3008, that would be 20,498,552. The special funds are 52,144,026. If you'll notice here, there's also a 17,500,000. That was the extra money given to the vet school, giving us a total of 71,392,578. Moving down to the financial aid. And keep in mind that we did pass legislation changing the income threshold to 42,500 last year. This year, starting, the general is 51,650,325. Special fund, 1,301,647, giving a total of 55,951,972. University of Mississippi Medical, reauthorizing 189,224,023, with a special fund of 1,714,375,074, giving a total of 1,900,312,557. If we look at the subcommittee totals, you would see the general fund is 748,936,132. With a special fund of 2,855,50,221, giving you a total of 3,696,938,625. Again, you're seeing that extra of that 17,500,000. Just a reminder, that's the vet school. I'm happy to answer any questions anyone might have.
Thank you, Senator Parks. Are there questions? Questions? Seeing none, Senator Parks, your motion.
Ask for passage. Title sufficient, do pass. Sorry.
Her motion is title sufficient, do pass. All in favor, say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Thank you, Senator Parks. I'm going to skip around a little bit because I think two of our subcommittee chairmen may need to slip out earlier. I'm going to go first to Senator Hill, and she's the fourth packet total, but third from next subcommittee number 6. Senator Hill, you are recognized to explain those bills.
Thank you. I have the Department of Mental Health. Keep in mind that we're at LBR right now at 667,461,635. And where that difference comes in from the previous fiscal year is the 20 million for community ID and DD waivers is backed out, but it is the intent of the legislature to level fund or fund above that amount in our final bill. And there are a couple of other expenses that are backed out that they say we no longer need to appropriate. There is a reappropriation for the canopy contract as well in here. And I don't see any other major changes, just deleting some language that they say we no longer need. So if there are no questions, my motion would be passage on the morning roll call. I'm sorry, would be title sufficient to pass. I think me and Rita are still sitting in the chamber.
We'll get it figured out here in a minute. All right, are there questions of Senator Hill? Seeing none, her motion is title sufficient to pass. All in favor say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Thank you, Senator Hill. I'll move next to Senator Delano, and I'm 11, Subcommittee 11. Senator Delano, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm not going to take these up in blocks since there's only two of them here, and there's going to be some conversations about this first one. So I'd like to be recognized to take up Senate Bill 3031, Department of Corrections.
You're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Department of Corrections comes in at with Senate action of 450,549,626. That's down 12,520,000 from the estimate for 25. And this is first action, and I'll yield for any questions.
Are there questions, Senator Delano? Seeing none. Oh, sorry, question, Senator Wiggins, you recognize.
Senator, can you tell me where things stand on the appropriation of the health contracts at the Department of Corrections?
Yes, sir. If you look on contractual services, the contractual services have gone up in LBR for this year. They did go out for the bid, as the chairman had talked about. The bid came back a little bit higher than what they had anticipated for this year, or from last year, excuse me, when we had our hearings. There are some teeth that are put into this particular contract for performance, and there's some opportunities for clawback to come back to the general fund, if I remember correctly, that we've done 40 million over 4 million. Okay, on the clawback side that we've recovered already. So we are working with them, with the vendor as well as the agency, to make sure that we understand how that contract's working, and that they know that we're watching them, watching this contract, and it's a shorter term contract. And I expect us to have some changes in it the next time we go out for bid.
Okay. That, it certainly is not in your issue or anything, but it seems to keep going up and up and up. Are we ever going to see a position where we're not in that trend?
Well, I think you know enough about healthcare to see that healthcare price or costs have been going up. The purpose of having this contract is to minimize that and to try to offset as much as we can, stabilize it for budgeting purposes. I think that there's some cost saving measures that have been put into this contract that may help administer it a little bit better, but I think there are some efficiencies that can be found. So that's certainly something that not just me, but certainly the chairman of the committee, policy committee, and others have been very interested in following.
Last question. Can you tell me what the specific number is for the health care contract?
We believe it was 130 million, 128, somewhere in that number is
Okay.
what I remember.
Okay, thank you.
But you'll see that this difference with the 12 million, you should know that about 7.5 million of that was from capital expense funds that we put in last year. That was not needed for this current year. So that's for locks and some upgrades that we did at different facilities. So that's an explanation. Are there any other questions?
Other questions? Senator Hickman, you recognize.
Just a quick question. I had this kind of question when we were talking about the deficit, but I remember, and I don't know which year, but I remember there may have been some legislation where we may have been able to take some of these medical expenses that we're talking about and use Medicaid to fund those. Are we looking into situations where we will be getting some type of a match from a federal program in order to offset the cost that we're paying out of capital? Or has that happened? I just don't remember whether it went through or whether some of these are on the Medicaid rolls or what have you.
There was some discussions about that during the Medicaid expansion of how you could get this population to be covered under Medicaid, and we were not able to do that under the legislation that we were proposing to do. But I know that there's been some discussions going forward on how can we look at those opportunities to leverage the federal funds in Medicaid or any other programs. But that is something that we're tracking as well.
And of course, I guess through all of this process, us working through, and I don't know, I mean, I'm guessing we can look into like whether there are waivers, but I think there was something like if we did like hospice care with some of the sicker patients, we could do Medicaid and things of that nature. I just think that's something that we could maybe look into. Again, if these are federal matches that every other person is using, even if we don't go into expansion, maybe we can have some type of a waiver that will help us get some of these expenses off our roll dollar for dollar.
Yes, sir. And as you know, Chairman Barnett's been on top of a lot of those issues, and he and I work very well together to make sure that we cover all the bases necessary between the policy committee and the subcommittee for appropriations.
Thank you.
Okay, Senator Barnett, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senator Lano, thank you for working with me as we discuss our corrections budget. And it's no secret whether we meet here or somewhere else and talk about correction budget. My concern has been, over the last 6 years as corrections chair, is that we have allocated over $100+ million over the last 6 years just in corrections alone. And my question has always been how much longer can the state of Mississippi afford this type of expenses just on one particular agency? And year after year, the request is always on medical side, one. Two is that we need to pay people more, but we hire less people. Three is our aging facilities. So, I mean, I see the numbers here. We've talked about it, but I'm not liking these numbers because I'm not seeing a return to the state of Mississippi on such a huge investment. We're talking about nearly $17 million per year extra every year. And that's a concern. Maybe I guess I'm almost like Senator Hill now. I don't know if it's a question or a suggestion, but would you agree?
Absolutely, I would. And you and I have looked at a couple of things, and some of the increases that you've talked about are for one-time monies that we put towards upgrading facilities. And we've made some significant upgrades to some of the different prisons around the state and facilities around the state. And as you know, that we work with the agency to make sure that in the department to make sure that we make sure that no stone is left unturned. And we know there's a long way to go on this. And you and I are going to work together to make sure that we get the efficiencies and look for the efficiencies where we can have them.
Thank you, Senator. Wouldn't you also agree that if we use some of these monies to make sure that those individuals who are on their way to be released could take advantage of some of the legislation and things that we've done, we would see a reduction in some of these costs that we're asking for because the numbers are going down? I mean, I just think that there's other ways where we can spend some of these money but just to keep putting it in aging facilities that are not going to get any better. They've aged out. And at some point, when are we going to say enough is enough on some of these facilities?
Yes, sir. Well, you know that they have a long list of deferred maintenance on those facilities, and we have moved forward with some of the upgrades that are needed, but I do agree with you. And you know that, I think you were in our subcommittee hearing where the department and the commissioner talked about their workforce development programs that they are integrating into their system to help people as they are, as they exit the system. So yes, sir, but I do appreciate your assistance in this.
Thank you. Further to Senator Delano's explanation on that, we put a significant amount of money into upgrading the facilities at Department of Corrections. We put a lot of ARPA funds. Senator Polk could probably speak in more detail about the funds we put into water, sewer, HVAC, locks,
Generators.
doors, generators, a lot of upgrades to the facilities to make sure that for, a lot of reasons. One, some of it was just needed, but obviously as it relates to the conditions of our facilities and how that affects things like we talked about earlier when we looked at the deficit appropriations, certainly has an impact on the condition of our correctional institutions. Are there other questions? Seeing none.
Motion be title sufficient to pass Senate Bill 3031.
Motion's title sufficient to pass. All in favor say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Now Senate Bill 3032. Senator Delano, you're recognized.
3032 is MEMA's budget. Their final action or the Senate action is 26,754,083. Some monies that have fallen out of this has been from vehicles that they had purchased prior, and then a decrease in salary due to some pins. They're shifting around, but that's an explanation of the bill. I'll yield for any questions.
And that includes, you also have the emergency management, disaster relief.
Oh, yes, sir.
So
I'm sorry. Yes, sir. Yeah, yes, sir. That is, and on the disaster relief fund, this is the big number that represents the state match for federal disasters. And the Senate action is 443,259,843. And that is an explanation of both of those accounts, and I'll be glad to yield.
Thank you. Are there questions on Senate Bill 3032?
Motion be title sufficient to pass.
Seeing none, motion is title sufficient to pass. All in favor say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Thank you, Senator Delano. Now let's move back up to Subcommittee 3. I'll recognize Senator Frazier to explain.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move that we take up item 3011, 3012, 3013 in a block.
Anyone wish to pull any of those? Motion is take those 3 items up in block. All in favor say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Senator Frazier, you're recognized.
Right, this is first action. We're moving with LBR on that. On 20 and 3011, the amount is $98,823,838. That's a reduction of $27 million, and that represents different projects they had. They had money for one-time money for different projects, so that was backed out of that budget. And on 20 and 3012, LBR recommendation was 748,000. Pardon me, 748,795,965, and that's a reduction of $24 million. On item 3013, Employment Security Department, LBR recommendation was $136,737,794, reduction of $1,800. Pardon me, $1,867,914. And that's the explanation of the bills that we have in that first action.
And you want to hit the also workforce, Office of Workforce Development down below that?
Right.
That's part of
correct.
3013 too.
That's correct. ABR recommendation was $40,217,015. Senate action was $38,617,015.
Okay. Thank you, Senator Frazier. Are there questions? Seeing none, Senator Frazier, your motion.
Title sufficient to pass.
Motion is title sufficient to pass. All in favor say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. That bill will be reported. Thank you, Senator Frazier. Moving on to Subcommittee 4, I'll recognize Senator Wiggins.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll go to Senate Bill 3014 Ethics Commission. And First, Senate action and LBR is 754,389. Be happy to take any questions.
Are there questions? Seeing none, your motion.
Title sufficient, do pass. Mr.
Motion is
Chairman.
title sufficient, do pass. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Thank you. You recognized for Senate Bill 3015.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. LBR and Senate action is $643,363. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? Seeing none.
Title sufficient, do pass. Mr.
Motion is
Chairman.
title sufficient, do pass. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Thank you. Now Senate Bill 3016.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is Department of Public Safety. So Senate action and LBR is $166,138,842. And I will state, contained within that is $1,884,003 for reappropriation. And that reappropriation includes vehicles for Capitol Police to the tune of 1.4 million, for facilities at Malota to the tune of 96,691. Then Driver Services Bureau to continue to upgrade and maintain the Endemia computer system. And then Driver Services Bureau that was at 160,000, and then Driver Services Bureau at 161,671. So that was the reappropriation. And Mr. Chairman, while I am on that, if I may take a personal point, we are, when I say we, the judiciary committees and anybody that would like here, we are touring the DPS new facility that has, and this committee has appropriated tens of millions of dollars, but this is a chance for us to go out and look at that. If anybody would like to join us, the buses are leaving at 1:30 from the High Street location. Pro Tem Kirby he's been by there. He said it is something for everyone in this state to be proud of for what we've done. I know I don't need to tell Chairman Hobson what we've done for them. But I haven't seen it, but this is a chance to do that if anybody would like to do that.
Okay. Yeah, thank you, Senator Wiggins, for that invitation. Are there questions on Senate Bill 3016? Seeing none,
Title sufficient, do pass.
the motion is title sufficient, do pass. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Thank you, Senator Wiggins. Those will be reported. Moving on to Subcommittee 7, I'll call on Senator Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senate Bill 3018 is our Office of State Aid Road Construction. We're following LBR's recommendation for first action at $220,376,205. The only thing I will note for the committee that's a little different this year is that the local state and bridge program was previously in Section 4 was previously phrased as, quote, not to exceed $40 million annually for each fiscal year. We're deleting that not to exceed language going forward because the state aid road will be limited to expend funds on that program based on how much money we actually appropriate due to the passage of a 5% diversion back in 2018. So as we get towards the end of the session, that number will become more finite.
And that may be the tax bills, depending on what's passed there, may play a factor in that as well. But anyway, that'll be a discussion that Senator Thompson and myself and maybe others would be involved in as we move further down the line on the tax debate. So with that, Senator yields for questions. Are there questions on State Aid Road? Seeing none.
Move for title sufficient.
Motion is title sufficient, do pass. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Thank you, Senator Thompson. Now moving down to Subcommittee 8, Senator Norwood, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to take Senate Bill number 30, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, and 27. I'd like to take them up in block.
Are there members that wish to pull any of those aside for discussion? Seeing none, motion from Senator Norwood is to take those items up in block. All in favor, say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Senator Norwood, you're recognized to explain those measures.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Senate Action 3019 is 363,967. 3020, 330,143. 3021 is 143,843. 3022 Senate Action is 199, 100. 3023 is 378, 324. 3024, 378, 711. 3025, 753, 303. 3026, 4,318,811. 3027, 200, 296. For a grand total of 7,066,498. And Mr. Chairman, all of the only the slight increase in any of them based on the contractual services for 3022 and PERS and the health insurance increase. I'd like to no question, I'd like to move that we have title sufficient to pass.
Thank you, Senator Norwood. Of the bills that Senator Norwood explained, there are three bills, Senate Bill 3019, 3022, and 3023, that we are hopeful on final passage. Those three should not have reverse repealers. I didn't check, but I don't think they have reverse repealers in them. So those three, as they come to the floor tomorrow, if you got any questions or anything that needs to be done before we get those out of the Senate, send them to the House. Those will not be back to see us if we can pass those tomorrow. Are there discussions on any of the bills or any questions of Senator Norwood? Seeing none, Senator Norwood, your motion is title sufficient to pass.
Title sufficient to pass.
All in favor, say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Thank you, Senator Norwood. Now we'll move on to Subcommittee 12. Senator McCon, you're recognized. Oh, I'm sorry, did I miss one? 10. Pardon me. I pulled the sheet aside, Senator Parker. Senator Parker, Subcommittee 10, you're recognized to explain those bills.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. There are limited bills on this subcommittee originating in our chamber. My motion would be to bring up Senate Bill 2028, 2029, 2030 in block. Be recognized.
Thank you. 3028, 3029, 3030. Anyone wish to pull any of those measures aside for discussion? Motion to take them up in block. All in favor, say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Senator Parker, you're recognized to explain.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. These are all special funds. Senate Bill 3028 for the chiropractic examiners is one that we are trying to do final action on. It does not have a reverse repealer. Senate action is 134,145. Senate Bill 3029 for dental examiners is Senate action of 1,276,240. Senate Bill 3030 for the pharmacy board is 3,958,339. Again, these are all LBR, and again, the first one does not have a reverse repealer. So yield for questions.
Are there questions for Senator Parker? Seeing none, motion
Title sufficient to pass.
is title sufficient to pass. All in favor, say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Thank you, Senator Parker. Now moving on to Subcommittee 12, I'll recognize Senator McCon.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would move that we take up Senate Bill 3033, 3034, and 3035 in block.
Any senator wish to pull any of those measures aside for discussion? Motion is to take them up in block. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Senator, you're recognized to explain.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is our ag budgets. If you look down through there, you're really only looking at a change of taking out some one-time funding we had from last year. These do have reverse repealers. They're not headed straight to the floor for final vote. You'll look and see that you're looking at about 28,383,791 for the Department of Ag and Commerce. Beaver Controls, 1.1 million. Ag and Commerce County Livestock Shows, 251,540. Dixie National is 1.2. Animal Health Board is 2.887495. We're working with animal health to continue some measures on some other funding to be sure that with the avian flu that we continue to support them as where they're needed. But right now, this would be the Senate action at this time.
Thank you, Senator McCon. Are there questions?
Title sufficient do pass, Mr.
Seeing none, motion is title sufficient to pass. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Those bills will be reported. Thank you. Now moving to Subcommittee 13, I'll recognize Senator Williams to explain.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd move we take up Senate Bills 3036, 3037, 3038, 3039, and 3040 in block.
Any senator wish to pull a measure for discussion? Seeing none, motion is to take those items up in block. All in favor say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Senator Williams, you're recognized.
This is first Senate action, and they all do take LBR. They all do have reverse repealers in them. Senate Bill 3036 Gaming Commission has a total action of $10,738,403. Senate 3037 Information Technology has a total Senate action of $48,021,552. Senate 3037, the ITS Wireless Communication Commission budget has a total action of $11,921,557. Personnel Board, Senate Bill 3038 has a total Senate action of $5,350,112. Senate Bill 3039, the Military Department has a total action of $166,535,867, $153,024,593 of that being special funds. Veterans Affairs Board, Senate Bill 3040 has a total Senate action of $8,860,409. And the Veterans Affairs State Veterans Home System, also in Senate Bill 3040, has a total Senate action of $54,884,419 for a total of this subcommittee, total action $306,312,319. If there are no questions, I would move title sufficient to pass, Mr. Chairman.
Any questions for Senator Williams? Seeing none, the motion is title sufficient to pass. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Thank you, Senator Williams. Next, move to Subcommittee 14. I will recognize Senator Michelle.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to ask that we take up the following items in block, please. Senate Bill 3041, 3042, 3043, 3044, 3045, and 3046.
Anyone wish to pull any of those measures for discussion? Seeing none, the motion has been made to take those up in block. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Senator Michelle, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Senate action on Mississippi Department of Revenue, Senate Bill 3041 is $78,054,394. That's the LBL level funding. This includes fees to operate our ABC distribution center and IT and equipment provisions. Also includes the increases in the progressions of salaries and also the PERS and insurance amounts as well. The Department of Revenue homestead exemption reimbursement is at $94 million. That's at the budget request level. The license tag commission is at $6 million. And if any of you want some feedback to your constituents on how long it takes to get a specialty tag, I paid for mine the first week of January and I'm still waiting on it. So the commissioner tells me about 4 weeks is the norm, but I don't know if they're backlogged or what on that. Maybe we can find that out before the session's over. The
You're
secretary.
the man for it, Senator Michelle. You're the man to find that out. I've got
Well,
full confidence that you'll
You
find out for us.
behind me, and I figure you probably won't been calling me a deadbeat because I hadn't got a tag yet, but I paid for it 5 weeks ago. All right.
I
Secretary of
apologize.
State's budget is $33,615,204. That's the Senate action. That's 95 permanent headcount on the Secretary of State's office. The Board of Tax Appeals, Senate action, $666,684. That's the includes health insurance and PERS, and a request, which has not been met yet, of about $20,000 in salary progressions, has a reverse repealer in it. Workers' Compensation Commission is at $6,064,432. That's at the LBR level. This is a special fund agency, and they have positions of 54. In the Treasurer's Office, Senate action is at $6,648,733. That's at LBR level funding. All, again, special funds. That includes the PERS increase and the insurance increase as well. Bank service charges, $250,000. That's level funding. The treasury fund investing funds, $150,000. That's the Senate has adopted the LBR level of funding at this. This is the fees on funds in the Education Improvement Trust Fund. The tuition payments for the impact fund at 35 million. That's as opposed to the Mississippi Affordable College Savings Plan. So we added a reverse repeater to that. And then on debt service and bonds for the treasurer's office, 474,152,000. That's the level LBR level funding. Be glad to yield any questions or move passage. Title sufficient do pass.
Are there questions of Senator Michelle? Before I take the motion, I just note for the members on Senate Bill 3041, the homestead exemption reimbursement, just so you'll know when you go home that we've been funding that, something that we hardly ever did when I first got here. We've been funding that fully for the last, how many years? 3 or 4 years, and that's something that we've been doing. So I just keep in mind when you talk to your local folks back home that is something we've been taking care of fully. We had not done for a long time before summer. I know when I got here, I don't think it was being done much. Senator Michelle, probably you either. Behind on that, but I'm glad we're doing that, and that was done at the JLBC that we bumped that up the 2 million to get full funding for homestead exemption reimbursement. So, are there questions? Seeing none, I think the senator made a motion. Title sufficient do pass. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. And then Senator Polk, we do have one bill that Senator Polk's going to handle at the conclusion of his budgets, but I'll recognize Senator Polk for Senate Bills 3047 through 3052.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I would suggest that we take 3047 through 3052 in block.
Anyone wish to pull aside one for discussion? Senator Wiggins? Senators wish to pull aside 3047, so let's go ahead and discuss that now. Senator Polk, you're recognized for 3047.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. 3047 is the Department of Audit budget, and we were looking at LBR of $14,049,918. The bill does have a reverse repealer.
Thank you, Senator Polk. Question, Senator Wiggins?
I
You're
do.
recognized.
Mr. Chairman, Subcommittee Chairman, I was looking through the language on the bill, and I don't see any language in there that authorizes the state auditor to pay $2 million for an out-of-state report. Is there any language to that effect in this bill?
There's not. I think there was an Attorney General's opinion on that that's been issued already.
And where is that money allowed to come from, if at all?
It came from his special funds, and the bill has already been paid. He escalated his own budget to do that.
Wait, so he escalated his own budget? If I see in the bill, it allows for, we grant the escalation.
We grant him the ability to escalate.
Was that for that particular,
No, it was not.
that it was not allowed by that?
That's
He had
just general language on escalation.
I'm sorry?
General language on escalation, not specific language as to that particular item.
And that agency took it upon themselves to escalate the special fund authority?
That's correct.
Okay, but we have not granted that in this bill. Is that correct?
That's correct, because it's already been paid. He did that last fiscal year.
So have we done anything in this bill to reimburse the taxpayers of the state of Mississippi?
Have not.
So how much was the bill that was paid?
$2 million.
And what's the total budget?
For his, this year, we're looking at $14,049,918.
I have a motion, Mr. President, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, first, the other questions? Seeing none, Senator, you're recognized for a motion.
My motion would be to reduce by $2 million the total special funds of the state auditor to reimburse the taxpayers of the state of Mississippi.
Okay, yeah, are there discussions on the motion? Senator Parker, you're recognized.
Mr. Chairman, yeah, I do realize, the intent of your motion, the issue that you're describing, we have through AET tried to come and look for a solution to that, and we continue to keep up that work. I don't know at this time, that reducing the budget by that amount would be the most prudent move since this does have a reverse repealer in it. I do think that the subcommittee chair and the chair are going to continue to look at this. But I think as we go through, I'd love to have discussions with you about some things I've found out on that issue and kind of bring you up to speed on where we are on that. And I do look forward to finding a solution to that problem. I'm not sure that, at this point, that amendment would be a solution. But I appreciate you offering and bringing attention to that because I do think that it is something we need to be contemplating and finding a solution for.
Well, okay. Yes, I would be happy to talk. That being said, if I understand the subcommittee chairman's point, that's $2 million that has already been paid of taxpayer dollars that was not authorized by the appropriations bill. And so the taxpayers are out $2 million and their taxpayer money went to a private company.
I do understand, and I do think your amendment, as you're suggesting, it certainly has some merit to it. I'm just not sure that at this point that, that is the solution right now as this bill moves along with the reverse repealer. I know it's going to get attention. There's going to be additional discussion on it, and so, I just have concerns at this moment about taking that action and how it might affect the process as we go through the remainder of the session.
So AET is looking for a solution to this issue?
Yes, and I introduced a bill that was, trying to find that solution, and it was ridiculed, pretty harshly in social media as being an attack on the auditor, but I continue through work that I'm taking this session to try to find a solution to that problem if we can find one. So, but again, I'm not speaking against your amendment. I'm just bringing hopefully some clarification and discussion to an issue that you're bringing attention to. And I do appreciate you bringing attention to an important issue.
Okay, unless Senator Wiggins, unless you got another comment, I'm gonna recognize Senator McClendon. He's
Another
got a
question?
Yes, Senator McClendon,
Yeah,
you recognize.
okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Senator Wiggins, for bringing that. Mr. Chairman, in our subcommittee, the auditor stated that he wanted to lower his budget by 1 million. Is that correct?
Well, I think so. I was not there for the entire, but Senator Polk could probably answer that, but that's my recollection.
It's a bit confusing of what he's asking for. In the headlines, he says he's asking for $1 million cut in his budget. But in his request, he's asked for $1 million to be cut from his general fund portion of the budget and asked for $1,047,000 increase in his special fund spending.
Thank you, sir.
Senator McClendon.
Mr. Chairman, this does have a reverse repealer in it.
Yes, it does.
So if in point of order, so parliamentary, if my amendment passes, then it's still, the reverse repealer is still in there.
Correct.
Okay. And my question would be on this to the Senate, to the chair, subcommittee chairman, is this the hearing that Senator McClendon mentioned? Is that the same one that Mr. Subcommittee Chairman, you were called a liar?
That is correct.
Okay.
Okay,
Mr. Chairman, have we, yeah, go ahead.
go ahead. You ask a question. I'll recognize you to close in just a moment.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Just on my amendment, Mr. Chairman, I think I don't need to rehash all that, but I do think that it's there's not language in this bill nor in any of the bills that authorized what we did. We're the Appropriations Committee. I'm sorry, that what the auditor did. We authorize and determine the spending of the money. I know of no other agency that has gone outside the bounds, as Senator Polk has kind of indicated. And so what I'm simply trying to do with the amendment is to reimburse the taxpayers of the state of Mississippi $2 million by reducing the budget. And with the amendment passing, if there is a reverse repealer, it's going to go to conference, and we can talk that issue with the House on that. So I think, and as Senator McClendon pointed out, he's already asked for $1 million, but as Senator Polk, $1 million reduction, but as Senator Polk pointed out, it's a little confusing. So if we're talking about being transparent, I'm not really sure where that's going. So I think it is transparent and get the taxpayers back $2 million. And as this goes through the process, we can work on it.
Okay, is that your close, Senator?
It is.
Okay, are any questions, any more questions? If not, the motion is on the amendment to reduce the budget. Is that, did you state whether that was general funds or special funds?
Special funds.
Okay, reduce the special fund authority of the auditor by $2 million.
And may I explain that part of it?
Certainly, you recognize.
The subcommittee chairman mentioned that that was a self-escalation of special fund authority, and so my amendment is simply addressing the special funds.
Okay, that would be section 2. All right, you've heard the motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The noes have it. Thank you, Senator. All right, moving on, Senator Polk, back to the bill. Do you have a motion?
Title sufficient to pass.
Motion is title sufficient to pass. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Thank you. Now, Senator, you want to make a motion, to take up 3048 through the end of your list in block, is that correct?
352.
3052. Are there other bills that need to be pulled aside? Seeing none, the motion take them up in block. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Senator, you recognize.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is, all the funds would be at LBO right now. They do have a reverse repealer in each one of the bills, and it would give us a total of 631 million as a subcommittee, excluding the Department of Audit, which we just took up. So if there are no questions, title sufficient to pass.
You guess, okay. Any questions, Senator Polk? Seeing none, motion title sufficient to pass. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. And then we'll move now to Senate Bill 3053 near the bottom of your packet. And I will recognize Senator Polk to explain this.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As you know, by state constitution, we can only appropriate funds basically for a year, maybe sometimes a year and a half. This is a reappropriation bill, which covers the COVID funds, the ARPA funds that we've been approving each year. In this bill, the only difference that we didn't previously pass is the transfer of any leftover funds from this year to the Department of Transportation for their 3-year maintenance plan. And this is a $54 million sweep. Let me say that again. This is $54 million that other agencies said they couldn't spend, and we moved it to the 3-year maintenance plan for the Department of Transportation. So with that explanation, I'll be glad to take any questions.
Are there questions for Senator Polk? Seeing none, Senator, your motion.
Title sufficient to pass.
Motion is title sufficient to pass. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Thank you for your work. We'll go over the summary tomorrow on the floor, and I'll entertain now a motion to rise and report. So moved. All in favor, say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Thank you.